Hello everyone. Today I wanted to tell you a quick story for a couple of reasons. One, I just think it's a good story. And two, I think there are some interesting lessons in terms of running your business and just things I try to carry with me through my life. So it's the story of when I met my friend and mentor, Jim Cockrum. Jim runs a community of online entrepreneurs. It's got to be the largest in the world, probably by quite a huge margin. And I've been part of that community for about 4 years now. And I first met him last year, so this would have been September 2018, at his annual conference in Indianapolis. The first lesson I would say is take initiative. I'm shy or introverted, whatever you want to call it. So the fear of meeting new people is always present, but I think the regret of not taking advantage of an opportunity will ultimately outweigh that fear you might have in the moment. I actually had been to his conference 2 years prior. I guess that would have been 2016 in Nashville, and there were several times I could have just gone up to him and chatted with him, and I just kind of shied away from it. And so when I went again last year, it was very important to me to at least take the opportunity to go up to him. But even with that in mind, I still every day I kind of put it off. He's talking to this person. Oh, the line is too long. He's talking with his son, or making excuses for why I couldn't talk to him. And then on the very last day, I had actually come up with an idea that I thought would be useful for a future conference of his. So now, initially I just wanted to go up to him and thank him for all he's done for the for the community and how he's helped me personally. And now I'm like, well, I have an idea. I should probably go talk to him. I even talked to a couple of my other friends at the conference about it, and they're like, yeah, you should definitely talk to him. And still kind of put it off. And then it was the last break before the conference ended. We had a kind of a longer than usual break in the afternoon, and then the last session was just I think it was a testimonial, and then Jim and his partner Brett were just going to kind of give thanks and goodbye, and that would be it. So really procrastinated to the end. But during this break, actually this enormous ballroom easily seats like 800 people, completely cleared out. Everyone's out in the hall or in different rooms, talking, networking. I mean, it was great. And I was doing a little bit myself, and I realized I forgot some materials in the ballroom. I walk in, there's like 10 people in this enormous ballroom. It just seems completely empty. But one of the people there is Jim. He's just standing off to the side next to his book table, ready to chat with anyone or sign a book. So basically no one else around. So I'm like, okay, I have literally no excuse now. So I walk up to him, and I'm sure it's funny for those of you who do know Jim, because Jim is the nicest, most genuine, humble guy you'll ever meet. So no one should be afraid to meet him. So we start chatting, and it's going really well. I talk a little bit about this idea that I've got, and he asks some questions. And I'm sure those of you who know him know he doesn't jump on board immediately. He wants to know more. He's obviously more likely to say no in the beginning. You need to prove it. So we kind of left it in the let's evaluate it further stage. And I think for him, he was like ready to say goodbye and move on. And I think in a lot of cases I would have said thanks, goodbye. But I don't know, just kind of out of nowhere inside of me, I just said to him, I know the exact moment when I realized how much you mean to me. And I think it surprised both of us that I said that, to be honest with you. And his eyes kind of widened, and I realized after saying that, I need to finish the story. So I start telling him about the previous summer when I was having some difficulties in my business. And it wasn't, honestly, even like now, I have a hard time remembering exactly what it was. But it was a lot of little things that were building up. And I was just getting frustrated. And it seemed like every time I tried to do something, it didn't work. And I don't know, it was halfway through the day, and I just, I got on the computer and I, went to the Facebook group, because that's usually where I go to kind of inspire me or push me. I mean, it's, for those of you not in the group, it's an amazing group. You should definitely join. But there was a video that Jim had posted, I don't think even an hour earlier. So I click on the video, and it's Jim standing in the wreckage of his house, and looks more grim than I'd ever seen him. And he's explaining that the day before, his house, the roof had been struck by lightning, started a fire, and then the combination of the fire, then the water damage from the fire department just destroyed everything. Now Jim and his wife and his kids, and I think even their pets, everyone got out okay. I don't think there were any injuries. But I just remember seeing him standing there, walking. You could see the sunlight shining like through the hole in the roof. He walks into his office, and he's telling us, this is where he does his podcast, which was not going to be operable anymore. And the biggest takeaway I had from that was he stood there very confidently and said, obviously I've got a lot to deal with, our whole family does, but I've built a tremendous team, so my business is not going to stop. My business is going to continue to grow, even as my family deals with all the issues that we're going to have to face in the coming months. And that just floored me, because here I am, little problem here, little problem there, and it's almost like I'm taking these pebbles, turning them into bricks. I'm like building my own wall that I can't get through. Jim has, I don't even think wall is a strong enough word, but he basically has this tremendous brick wall fall in his path, and he just basically says, I'm just going to blow right through it. And I know it's the case that what he said was going to happen did in fact happen. Like, he was able to grow his business, because of the team that he had built around him. So I think there are two lessons there. One, from my side of things, is you can't let little things build up into major things. Little thing comes up, address it, persevere, push through it, talk to someone else who's gone through something similar, but don't let everything pile up into something that suddenly feels unmanageable. And then from Jim's side of things, you got to get to a point where your business is more than just you. Because if it was just him, his business would have really suffered. So if, obviously the little things, each of us can take care of, but if there's something major, if it's, a health issue or a family issue, or, you don't think it's likely, but, it happens. People's houses get struck by lightning. So when that happened, he had every confidence in his team, and it was, shown to be, they definitely deserved the confidence he had in them. So that's another lesson, is get yourself to a point where you're not 100% your business. I think Jim says that that's if removing you from your business kills the business, then you really just have a hobby. So anyway, I was, telling Jim, I remember watching that video and I remember struggling at the time, and I just kind of sat back thinking, how could I be, so worked up about what I'm dealing with when he confidently is like, I'm gonna move forward regardless. And my first thought was, I want to help Jim. What can I do to help Jim? And the first thing is like, I could send him some money, but Jim has way more money than, I don't think any money I could give would make any sort of significant impact. I think, so that, I dismissed that. I'm like, I could go to Indiana. I think I'd just be in the way because Jim doesn't know me. It'd just be more stress to figure out what to do with this random New Yorker. And it frustrated me that I couldn't think of anything, and I just was like, what does Jim need right now? And as I'm telling him this, I say to him, Jim, I know how important your faith is to you. And I want you to know that I'm not a believer. I grew up Christian, but really haven't, been involved with the church for, decades now. And his response was, that's fine. We can have different worldviews on that. It doesn't mean, we can't be friends or we can't, have other commonalities. And I said, well, even though I don't believe in God, I sat there that day in my apartment, and for the first time in about 25 years, I said a prayer for you and Andrea and your children, because, well, I knew that's what you would have wanted. And even though it's not my thing, it's definitely something I can give. And I remember he just got real quiet and put his hand on my shoulder, and he told me that, that prayer meant so much to him because it came from a place of giving and not, like I said, outside of my worldview. And he went on and said, it's like, I don't know if you believe it, Adam, but God did hear your prayer that day, because it was a pretty tough situation. I don't think he divulged everything publicly that they were going through, and to see the look of gratitude on his face was just an amazing thing. And I've actually told this story to lots of friends and family, and I've kind of asked myself, why I did a couple of those things. Like, why did I want to help Jim in the first place, and why did I choose that method? And it actually comes back to Jim himself, because the thing that he preaches constantly is serve others. And he doesn't just say it, but he lives it. He's done so much for this community, and a lot of the serve others is in the context of business or customers. Serve your customer. But I think it extends beyond that. I think when you're an entrepreneur, you have to live your life the same way you run your business. So, thinking of all the things that Jim has done, for me personally and for the community, that's why I wanted to help him. I wanted to give something back. And but then how do we get to a point where an atheist chooses to pray for someone? If you're a Christian or other God-believing person, prayer is going to be high on your list, and for a lot of people, will be first. if not close to it. And it's not like prayer is low on my list. It's not on my list of, problem solving techniques. But again, it comes back to when you serve others, you're not looking at what you have to give. You're looking at what they need, right? He talks, he and Brett have really developed, a rather unique marketing strategy where you don't create a product and then push it on the customer, convince the customer they want it. You kind of survey the customers or your audience, determine what they need, and figure out how to give it to them. So as soon as I flipped the question around, because I went from how can I help Jim to what does Jim need? And that's a subtle difference, but when I asked it to myself that way, the answer was completely obvious, that that's what he would have most wanted in that moment. And it really does. It comes back to Jim. I mean, I feel like I've been learning the lessons of, serving your customers well. But that moment for me was kind of an eye-opener, because I realized, I'd kind of internalized this serve others message, beyond just the business world. I mean, I try to do that in my family life with, my wife and my kids. But it's definitely a message that runs through this community. You see it all the time, and it's something I try to live by every day. So, again, the 4 lessons I take away from this story: 1, take initiative. Don't let opportunity pass you by. Your regret will be greater than your fear. Number 2, don't let little problems, little issues build up into something insurmountable. Number 3, build yourself a team. Make your business able to be sustained without you, because life can throw you some curveballs. And number 4, serve others. Serve your customers, serve your family, serve your God if that's what you believe. Serve others in everything you do. All right, that's all I got. Thanks.